Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Cafe Esoterica Radio on Blog Talk Radio. Come on in, pull up a cozy chair, and listen to wonderment as we bring you the most enlightened guests on web radio. I am your hostess with the mostest, Shawn Cohen. That's me, a psychic, medium, metaphysician, author of 4 books, teacher of esoteric knowledge for 37 years and counting, which is why I am so proud and honored to bring you the authors and practitioners in the know from the Mind, Body, and Spirit Compendium of Life, as well as experts in divination and holistic healing, fabulous tarot readers, wise and profound astrologers, and even the odd rock star, just for your edification and enlightenment. We have been on hiatus, but we're back in the saddle again and raring to go for our 4th season of Cafe Esoterica Radio, broadcasting to you live every Thursday at 7 to 8:30 p.m. UK time, 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and worldwide, so find your time zone and dive in. Want to be part of the show? Please do. Call in on our new number, which is 858-956-3204. Chat in our chat room, which is located at the end of our landing page on Blog Talk Radio. If you don't find it there, just refresh your page and it will appear. Can't catch us live? Not to worry. You can find us on many formats like TuneIn, Podbean, Stitcher, and now Spotify. And you can watch me simultaneously broadcast our show every week live on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, put in the search Cafe Esoterica Radio, and you'll see me there live talking to you. So grab your latte, your cappuccino, perhaps a herbal tea, and your best friend, and trip the light fantastic with us once more. And as always, your table is reserved. So come on in. Welcome back, everybody. It's Shawn Cohen here, your hostess with the mostest for Cafe Esoterica Radio. It's a nice, warm, hot, mild, not too hot, July evening here in London. And I must say, it's just a pleasure to be doing the thing I love the most, which is bringing you enlightened guests for the entire world to listen to. Today is no exception. My guest today is evolutionary astrologer Isaac George. He is a channeler, he's an author, and a healer, Reiki healer, and so much more. So I'll be bringing him up, and we'll be talking to him in a little bit. Let me go back to what I normally do, a little bit of show news. I'd like to thank first my guest from last week, the lovely and gorgeous goddess which was and is Francesca Cassini. And Francesca is a woman of a certain age who's changing the way the world sees older women of a certain age. Women of a certain age are allowed to have lives. They're allowed to be beautiful at any age, not just 20 and 30. And Francesca is she's got the silvertent.com. So it's a beautiful community of women over 50 who are supporting each other, helping each other, very spiritually active community. And you can find her and the Silver Tent gang at all the W's, thesilvertent.com. So please do check her out. And I also want to offer you my own little gig, which is coming up this Sunday. I love the tarot. I've been a tarot reader for 36 years now, 37 years, and a teacher. And I've written a book, if you don't know already, called The Tarot Workbook. And this is a student workbook. Okay, you can find it on my website, which is all the W's, tarot by Shawn Cohen .weebly, WEEBLY.com, and or blurb, BLURB.co.uk. And it ships all over the world. It's a wonderful little book that teaches the tarot, and it teaches you everything you need to know, really, in such a small book. You can also get it on a Kindle if you like. And what happens on an all the other formats, but what happens is I thought it would be nice for the tarot readers to gather on a Zoom meeting. So I'm offering very cheap, very cheap. It's 30 quid for the English and 37 for the American. And any other, currency we will find, the equivalent. You can also get 10% off if you've heard this from my show. I'm going to give anyone who wants to join the Tarot Salon this Sunday, the 21st of July, on my Zoom link, which I will send to you when you email me at cafeesoterica@gmail.com. I'll put this all in the chat rooms in a minute. cafeesoterica@gmail.com, and say you want to come to the Tarot Salon. Now, the time is a 3-hour gathering, and it's going to be videotaped on Zoom. You can see and talk to each other in real time. And I would like to just gather up all the tarot readers and let's have a communion. Let's talk. Let's share knowledge. Let's laugh. Let's do readings for each other. It'll be a lot of fun. And so cheap, $37. You can't even get lunch in America anywhere like that for that. And it'll be 10% less, $33. Okay, so 3 hours of fun with tarot readers, all levels. Welcome. You can come if you know very little, but you've got a deck of cards. You can come if you've been a master tarot reader for 30 years like myself. So, I want all points, all people, and please, if you're interested, again, the times are 7 to 10 p.m. UK time, okay, on Sunday the 21st. And in America, it would be on the Eastern Coast, 2 p.m. in the afternoon to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then in California, in the West Coast, you have 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And all points in between. I don't, find the time zone. If you're not sure, just write to me. Shawn, just write to me, cafeesoterica@gmail.com. We will have a Facebook group for this group. And if this works, I might do this once a month. Just have a little gathering of tarot readers. Often we're misunderstood. Often people don't really understand what we do, but we understand what we're doing. And, it's nice to support each other and have a little gathering. Many years ago, before there was the internet, before there were computers, I had these wonderful psychic soirees at my home. And, it was great. We'd have astrologers, tarot readers, divination of all kinds, people casting runes, and everyone would bring something to eat and something to drink. And we'd just have this big potluck experience. It was good fun. And it would go on for a couple hours, and I think we all felt really happy to do it. And once the internet took over, these kind of things don't happen as much, probably hardly ever. And so I think we can do it virtually, and people can come and listen and enjoy all over the world and participate. So I wanted to put that out there, July 21st, this Sunday, okay, at 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern Standard, 11 a.m. in Pacific Coast time, and all points in between. 30 quid, 30 pounds is nothing, and $37, and whatever the euro is if you're from Europe, Okay, so that's my little sort of announcement. I have one other announcement, and then we'll get to our wonderful guest. This little book comes from all the different shows I've done over the last 3 years from Cafe Esoterica Radio, and it's called In This Metaphysical Moment. And it is a wonderful book it's called In This Metaphysical Moment, an Oracle of time. And what you do, I have written this book. This was just published. You just think of a question, and you close your eyes, and you just open to any page, and therein lies your answer. Okay? So it is a beautiful, after every show, I've written in this metaphysical moment for, 100 shows. So you have over 80 pages of information here, beautiful things, every theme. Every show has a theme, whether it's astrology or tarot or esoteric knowledge of some sort, holistic medicine, kindred spirits, twin flames, you name it, it's in here. And even the odd rock star, which I do have on occasion. And it's a wonderful sort of chock-filled esoteric knowledge book. So even if you don't use it as an oracle, you just want to read it, it will bring you a lot of joy and a lot of wisdom, and it's a great gift. And this is available on my website. This is available to buy from Blurb as well. You can buy it in a Kindle form as well, but I don't think it's as nice. I think you really want to just open it up and look at the lovely pictures that go with it. So that's also available. I'm pushing that to my audience because this was taken from the show. And I will be doing it with the next level of in this metaphysical moment. I'm going to be creating cards, so like oracle cards instead of a book. So when you hear me say them out at the end of every show, that's why. Okay. But also, I think it adds something special to the show. Right. Okay. Now, let me get on to one other thing. Next week, July 25th, my guest will be Dr. Maria Cronin, who is a naturopathic physician. So if you've got aches and pains that don't go away, chronic disease, this is the show for you. Okay, so please come by then. And it gives me great pleasure, absolutely great pleasure, to, hold on one second, I'm going to just about, in a second there, I have something to do there, okay. To introduce my next guest, which is evolutionary astrologer and healer and channeler of angels and archangels and many other things, Isaac George. Now, let me give you a little bit of history about Isaac. First of all, his website is www.isaacgeorge.com. So if you want to check him out while we're on air, please do. In 1994, Isaac experienced a powerful spiritual and soulful awakening occurred during which his former life passed away and a new one began emerging. This was a spontaneous, sorry about that, Chrome, sending me stuff. This was a spontaneous awakening of Kundalini, and although he had experienced some other spiritual awakenings previously from age 7 onward, this one was far and away more profound than the near-death experience he had at age 20. You can already see there's a lot here. I'm going to let, he's had many experiences. He's trained in Kundalini, in Reiki. He's trained in Reiki in 1996. Okay. And by 1998, he was moving out of the music industry, where he was working in retail there, and became really interested. He was working really with channeling a lot. And I'm going to let him tell you about the channeling because I think it's amazing. And his other field, of course, is evolutionary astrology, which is a profound study in itself. And he says he studied this for 15 years, which I can believe. And also that he wrote a book, a self-published book called What Really Matters in 2007. He's also got a follow-on CD called Excerpts from Eternity. Isaac is a Yank like me living in the UK. He's from Allentown, PA, which is down the road from Pittsburgh, where I grew up. And he's living here in the UK in Cambridge. So I'm going to introduce him because he is just so full of wisdom, and there's so much to talk about with him. So Isaac, welcome to Cafe Esoterica Radio.
Hello, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good.
We're just up the road from each other.
As long as we can hear each other, we're both good, right?
Yeah, that's great. And thanks for everybody who's tuning in. Appreciate that. Now, you wanted to elaborate on something. Well,
let's go. I would like to. You'll hear me rustling my papers here because I do write a script for every show, but of course I'm not adamant about it. I just want to sort of get in that I think are important, and I always ask at the beginning of every show with each guest, each wise and wonderful guest, I would like, because I'm curious more than anything. This is pure selfishness,
Okay.
Because I've woken up, and I want to know, how did you wake up? Where did it begin? And that's why I read the first bit of your bio, because I thought it was interesting that you, like many people, many light workers, they wake up very early, very young. There's a lot of things going on in their lives as children. So can you take us through or tell us, please, about, what happened to you really in when you were a child? What was, eventually going to be pointing to who you are now and what you're doing now?
Oh, well, okay. Appreciate that, giving space and time for this.
Yes.
It happened, I grew up on a 90-acre farm in Pennsylvania, in Allentown or near Allentown.
Right.
The same place that Billy Joel put on the map.
Yes.
but
I know this all well. Yes, go on.
That's another story. But the thing of it is, I guess I didn't realize, as you are when you're a child, you don't realize you're having unusual experiences. You think everybody else does, And what happened was just around the time before my 7th birthday, living on, again, this 90-acre farm, and 2 years into going to, like, first grade, second grade, I really wasn't into the school thing. I was an avid reader. I sketched. But I spent a lot of time out of doors. I spent loads of time in nature. And so that was my home, really, and I remember distinctly thinking, in those early years, looking up at the sky and thinking, why am I here? What is this place? What's this all about? As children probably do, they muse about these things. But what happened to me one day, just before my 7th birthday, and this came out much later, at age 40, almost 44, I had 2 hypnotic age regressions to bring this to the surface. What turned out to be a very extraordinary and galvanizing experience of talking to a disembodied voice in pure light. And I don't know, I didn't know at the time what it was, but basically the experiences that came out in the regression, actually, the clue to finding out that something even had happened at that age was through a tarot reader, who also specialized in Jungian dream work. And she's the one who pointed it out in the spread in May of 1994. Something happened to you around age 7 that gave you your reason for being here, and it scared the pants off you. And so that's when I went and booked 2 sessions with this hypnotherapist, and she took me back to that event. In the event, as I can well relive it and remember it, is that I was just playing down by the creek behind my parents' farmhouse in the buildings, and it was a summer day, and there's a lot of insect noises. We've been out of school for a week or 2, and I just remember everything kind of going quiet, i.e. all the insect noises got quiet. Everything kind of got that muffled sound like you had a pillow over your head. Right. And everything went super bright and blurry. Now, whether that was happening inside, outside of me, or both at the same time, I have no recollection. I just remember then hearing a voice speaking in a language that I could not understand as anything I had heard up to that point as being a comprehensible language, but I understood what was being imparted at some level. And I was having a conversation back and forth with this voice, which sounded like it was in front of me, inside of me, all around me, all at the same time. I didn't have any identification. Nobody flashed an ID badge and said, this is who's talking. I just knew I had to stop and listen. I was completely frozen a little bit. when it was all said and done, I remember at the very end of it saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And then it all snapped, like rubber band snapping, it all ended. And what I didn't realize at the time, that this was just an overreaction or a reaction at that age to overwhelm and trauma. And I literally, by September of that year, it was diagnosed that I couldn't see the blackboard. I needed glasses. Following year, I started smoking. Somebody who was much older than me started me smoking cigarettes. And my mother had already been addicted to cigarettes from before my birth, so it was sort of in my DNA. And I didn't realize that I was sort of medicating myself from that post-traumatic, it was like post-traumatic disorder for years, if not decades. Now, that wasn't the end of that. There were other things that cropped up in my late teens, well, around the time of Woodstock and all of that, and we started experimenting with psychotropic substances. But we were also studying Tibetan Buddhism and all kinds of other esoteric things like the Ekankar Society and astral travel. All my friends were as weird as I was at that time, and they were all musicians. I started playing guitar when I was 15 and playing in bands, and they were all in bands, and we got together and it was like doing this spiritual mental exploration stuff. And I was starting to have some very unusual experiences with, just meditating, learning how to meditate, self-taught or reading these Tibetan books, and having all kinds of interesting things happening. And around the time of age 20, I was really in a depressive funk for some reason. I was living at home again and working a dead-end job at a car dealership. And one day I took something that was supposedly the synthesized form of THC, which is in all cannabis, and it almost killed me. I died. I essentially almost died beside a creek early in the morning in a city park, and was something intervened. A person showed up who looked like they were a hospital orderly, asked me if I was okay, and I could barely breathe and I was passing out, and I said, no, I'm not. And then he held up one of these tablets I took and showed it to me. He said, did you take one of these? And I said, yes, I did. He said, okay, if you want to survive, if you want to live, you will do exactly as I tell you to do. And he helped me up, walked me around, forced me to drink some water, got me in my car, drove me to a Rexall drugstore, a pharmacy, told me to wait in the car, went inside, came back out with a paper sack full of I don't know what, took me back to the place he found me instead of to the general hospital where I thought I was going to end up. And he force-fed me these 1,000 milligram vitamin C tablets until I could keep them down. I kept throwing them up. I felt so bad. And finally I was exhausted from all that, but starting to come back to normal. And I lay down, he made me lay down in the grass and put a wet rag on my head and just sat there and held my left hand and talked to me. And I don't remember a word he said. I just drifted off. And 4 hours later, I woke up with people having picnics all around me and throwing their frisbees to their dogs. And that was that. I didn't know what hit me. I just know I never did another chemical substance like that, synthesized, man-made substance. And I changed my name. Up to that point, I'd used my middle name, my middle birth name of Edwin, which was what my dad and my grandfather did. And then all of a sudden I told everybody, no, I'm not Edwin anymore. I'm Isaac. I'm using my real first name. And I had to re-educate everybody over the next few years. I became vegetarian again. I started meditating harder and started studying the Edgar Cayce material. After going through a bout with the Theosophical Society, the Rosicrucians, all these arcane societies from Europe. They were all around me in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It was amazing. And my first taste of astrology was there too. As a matter of fact, during that time.
Wait, Isaac, let me just intervene for a second.
Yeah.
Very interesting. If people don't know Allentown, PA, it's like a hole in the wall. Can I be so bold to say that? Small city compared to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh even, it's a really small town. So for you to get I mean, it used to be a big steel town. That's what his song was all about. You know, there's no
Yeah,
more.
Bethlehem Steel, right next door.
Yeah, there's no more work. That's why the song about in Allentown when the steel mill shut down. But for you to find all these, remember, folks, no internet back then. Okay, if you even walked to your local library or drove, do you think you would find one Edgar Casey book in an Allentown, PA in this time? Now, you're talking about what time are you talking about? The 70s?
1970 to 72,
yeah.
73, early 70s.
Yeah. So, wow. It's really important we put a marker here and talk because my audience is all over the world. There are many people out there who are desperate to understand the experience they're going through. And another part of them are saying, could this happen to me? And another part of them are wise old souls, who've heard it all, done it all, and bought the T-shirt. Why not? So I just think it's really important. I need to also say for my audience to just connect the dots to my guest, Peter Anthony, who was on a couple weeks ago. Peter had a near-death experience. He died. He was in the hospital on a gurney, okay? And he was also like you, very similar. And I didn't know this, of course, when I booked both of you. I don't know either one of these people. I just found them, and they want to be on the show, and they're certainly qualified to be on the show. And Peter was lying on a gurney in a hospital during the AIDS crisis, and he was dying. He had a burst gut, basically. He didn't have AIDS, but nobody would touch him because they thought he had AIDS. Okay.
Whoa.
And this nurse came over out of nowhere, and she said, "Right, I'm gonna save your life." And she basically made sure that the doctors looked at him and cleaned him up because there was blood all around him. And the show is, people can listen to the show. It's in the archive, and it's very similar. That somebody out of nowhere, because he said he knew he was dying. He actually died on that gurney, and he was brought back. Okay, so there are people out there, as people think, do angels exist? Was that an angel, or was that just a good person? And in both cases, he could never find the nurse again.
I could never find this guy again either. This is the odd part. He looks sort of like a very young David Bowie. And dressed all in white deck shoes. And I was looking for a name badge, but I just assumed he was walking home from Allentown General Hospital, which was like 4 miles away.
Wow.
And I never saw him again. I woke up, he was gone. This guy just commandeered my car and took me to the pharmacy and brought me back down to the same place he found me among all these willow trees in a river. So I kind of just quietly assumed that this was divine intervention in some form, because I was going to die. I was literally struggling to breathe. And what I found out was the next day, the newspaper, the Sunday Call Chronicle, this was on a Saturday, published a warning from the Allentown Police Department. Anybody out there selling what was purported to be THC in tablet form, don't buy it. This guy is selling large horse-sized doses of ketamine. So I had taken a horse dose worth of ketamine, which basically, medically speaking, would cause your diaphragm to collapse, suppress the area in the brain that controls the diaphragm, and you would suffocate to death. So, we'll talk about, I've had a lot of lucky scrapes. I've had a lot of so-called exit points in my life that occurred and continue to occur up until 1996. And that was the last time that happened. It was a very strange motorcycle accident, solo one, me driving. Anyway, but that was after the awakening had already started, the Kundalini awakening.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about I know what Kundalini. I've had my own experience, but what can you tell our audience about what a Kundalini awakening is and how it happened to you? That I think they would like to know that.
Okay. I had no name for it. I had to do research after the fact. I just knew my life would never be the same again. For me, it was initially a huge heart expansion because I had encountered somebody through my work. There was such a strong soul recognition with this person that you never feel like you're going to be the same person again. It was just that automatic telepathic heart connection that you have, and it's like an activation. It's like you don't know where things are going to go, where your life is going to go, but you just have to follow it. But it happened just prior to that. I was really, again, in a very depressed place, in a very lost place. And I started praying at the end of 1993. I need a direction. I don't know what's going on in my marriage. My last parent has just died. I was really unhappy at work. I was working in a music store, selling guitars and everything. And I just felt trapped and lost, and I started praying to Spirit. I started praying to Source and saying, I need direction here. I need help because this is not working for me. I'm feeling incredibly low. And it started really with right after New Year's Day or over New Year's weekend, I took a keyboard home, a synthesizer, my first time ever playing one, borrowed it from the store, and started recording some pieces, spontaneously writing music that weekend. And my wife at the time was away doing some massage training. So I was by myself, and it was like, that was really like an amazing experience just to sit there and compose music improvisationally. And then it was just like 10 days later that I was off to this big trade show in Anaheim, California with 3 other members of the staff, one of which was the young woman who's a saxophone player. And it was on that trip, this kind of awakening occurred, and we recognized each other. I mean, literally, it was like a veil dropping between us, and we just like, uh-oh, what is this all about? Who are you? And where do I know you from? And the heart opening was the beginning. It was really, we didn't want an affair or anything like that. We just stayed as pure as possible to our situations. But the damage was already done. It was like the cat was out of the bag, the genie was out of the lamp, and I started having all kinds of weird experiences in the body, electrical, heat, interesting waking visions, dreams, waking up. That's when it started. It was like a week or two after this trip of waking up and seeing 11:11 on the clock in the middle of the night on digital clock. Well, actually, it was not a digital one, so it's mechanical ones where the little numbers flip down. 222, 444, and this went on for nights in a row. And I kept thinking, I'm just going to be a nervous wreck because I can't get any sleep. And it never ran out of energy all day long. Well, the so-called friendship went sideways in April of that year, but the acceleration of the awakening kept going. And by this time, my wife has convinced me there's something wrong. You need to go get mental health counseling. I was seeing a mental health counselor. I was in a men's group, and I was also as a part doing marriage counseling. And in all situations, by this time, in a little voice that awakened in me and said, you can talk about, all of this stuff, your marriage and your work and everything with the therapist, but you cannot talk about these visions. You cannot talk about what you're experiencing at the spiritual level. And I didn't understand why that was, except that much later I came to understand, well, if I had done that, then I would have been medicated and probably put under observation, having a psychotic break. This is what they did with people like me back then. And, and so I just had to follow my own spirit at that time. I had to follow this voice that was sort of leading me through this maelstrom of change. And by June, I was living on my own and separated. And by October, I was divorced. And during that 7-month period or 6-month period, I lost 42 pounds, went back to being a vegetarian, stopped smoking, stopped drinking, was meditating twice a day, and trying to hold down a full-time job. and having all these eruptions of energy in my body that would sometimes in the middle of the night would just throw me off the side of the bed, or collapse me standing up. My knees would just give way and I just drop to the floor. So the Kundalini awakening in Sanskrit or Hindu sense is this power or energy of the feminine, the divine feminine, Shakti energy at the base of the spine. And when it's awakened by sometimes trauma, sometimes a car accident, sometimes a woman in 10 hours of labor, it can happen. It's happened to a psychologist named Stanislav Grof. His wife was in 12 hours of labor, went through a Kundalini awakening after the birth. And you're never prepared for it. You just know a way to prepare for it. And there's people that take Kundalini yoga classes for like 25 years and never have these experiences. So what happened was that I just went with it. I just went with it and trusted it. And it was during that time, it was around my 44th birthday, again, a kind of an anniversary of that experience in the meadow, of when this voice came to me one day in a meditation and said, I am Ariel. And I had this, I was blissed out for hours. I didn't know what had happened. And I just assumed it was a guardian angel. That's all. That was just my guardian angel. I didn't have any other name for it. I didn't have any description or definition. So I just went with that. And this guided me pretty much through the next year. And then took me, I met somebody who was a Reiki teacher, a Sui Reiki, and I took my first Reiki class. And that finally grounded me. That's finally started the grounding of this eruption of energy, and it started that. And then by 96, I knew I wasn't going to stay in corporate life. By that time, I'd been tabbed to open a retail store for a major retail music company. And 2 years later, I moved to Sedona, and I thought I'm just going to go down. I got my Reiki mastership. I'm just going to go to Sedona, move to Sedona, start teaching Reiki classes, see clients, do healing work, and that was it. Well, the universe had other plans, and that's when the channeling started.
Okay, let's pause you there because that's a lot to take on board. We want to get into the astrology as well. We do have callers on hold, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to play us a little. I'm going to play us a little song because we need a little break. We're past our break time. And so people can wet their whistle and they can go to the loo or do whatever they need to do or listen to a beautiful song. And because of which we're going to get to, these major eclipses that have happened, and I wanted to talk particularly about this with Isaac, but we haven't got there yet, but we will. The eclipses are Cancer, Capricorn. July the 2nd, we had the Cancer one. We just finished the one in Capricorn, 24 degrees. And, of course, these are the parents. Cancer is the mother, Capricorn is the father, and so many other things go with that. And, of course, the children and the nurturing. So I always pick different songs for different shows with different, all the different themes. And this time I decided I'm going to pick, based on these eclipses, these themes of fathers, mothers, and children. So here we go. First one in. This is just a little 2-minute break, which the classic "Teach Your Children" by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and we'll be back with the amazing Isaac George. Stay tuned.
Road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they pick, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh. your parents' wealth, their children's health will slowly go by, and see them on your dreams, the one they pick, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Okay, we're back. I apologize about the volume. What happens in Blog Talk Radio land is the studio is you don't see it here on the YouTube because you just see me, but on my other laptop, which I'm looking at, the studio is a studio, and you can lower the volume and make it higher. And when the songs start, you just really don't know, even though you've uploaded them and prepared them, what volume they're going to. You hope they're going to be the right volume, but they're not always. So I apologize for that. Okay, folks, I'm not trained in sound engineering. I wish I had one here. That would be great. But anyway, let's go back. So Isaac, you were talking about Reiki, and you were talking about the Kundalini, which we're going to move on to. I want to get to the wonder and the amazement. I know Reiki heals people. They're using it now in the hospitals, and you found it interesting and it grounded you, you said, right?
Yeah, it did. It actually, it expanded things, but that was really kind of like, I needed an anchor point. I was like floating like a balloon with a very thin string. So a lot of people who study healing work, energy work, think that Usui Reiki is more of an earth healing energy anyway, polarity-wise. And I found it incredibly grounding, whereas Sekhem Reiki, Sekhem is very fiery and expansive. Karuna is very soft and watery. So I took training in all three of those modalities and got master degree, and also Kundalini Reiki, which was something relatively new back in 2008, 2009. But they all have like different flavors, of an effect and different ways of affecting or healing or helping people. But Usui Reiki still kind of like my all-time favorite because it was the oldest lineage going way back to Mikao Usui himself.
Okay, so we have so much to get through that it's interesting and fascinating, but I think I want to move us on to, if you don't mind, Isaac, I'd like to move us on to the astrology. We have two callers, and I do want to take them, because I think it would be interesting for you and the show. This is why we have this show on Blog Talk Radio, people can call in. So let's move to, you studied evolutionary astrology. Explain to our audience, because there's many different types of astrology, and I have had many astrologers on the show, okay? I have, and I'm an astrologer myself, which my audience knows. So what is evolutionary? What's the difference? What's evolutionary astrology?
Well, in the briefest terms, evolutionary astrology looks at the journey of the soul through the archetypes or symbols on the chart of the north and south node of the moon. I would say other astrologers of note who developed or did this sort of astrology or developed it was Jeffrey Wolf Green. And there's a few others. And basically, like psychosynthesis, it takes into account the soul and spiritual side of the individual in a deeper, more karmic way, looking at karmic patterns that are revealing themselves in the pattern of the chart, and helping an individual to really kind of resolve or break free of a lot of those karmic patterns or ancestral patterns. So therefore, the word evolutionary. I also like calling it soul-based, which is, kind of looking at astrology from the top down, realizing astrology is a system of our language, of understanding the self and the world we live in, that only works here. Outside of the orbit of Pluto, has no effect. If there were no sun, it wouldn't even be a system or a science. So it's fascinating to me, from an evolutionary standpoint, taken in a broader context, watching how it plays out in world history, how it plays out in current events, and how amazingly accurate it is in that context has always fascinated me.
Well, this is the thing about evolutionary astrology, and we had an evolutionary astrologer on the show many years ago from Israel named Boaz. From his name was Boaz Filer, and he was fantastic. I've been invited to speak with the evolutionary astrologer. It's very interesting. I myself trained myself from I got into astrology in high school. Even the first book I read was Linda Goodman Sunshine. I was 13 years old.
Same here, but I was much older.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough. My mother brought it home. She was an actress, and she went to a party, and Linda was signing her book. Go figure, in Pittsburgh. And
fantastic.
After a play she was in, and I just happened to find it on the shelf, and I thought, what's this? And my whole life changed. Everything changed. I just started reading astrology, loving astrology. It explained my crazy family a lot. And I thought, well, there's something to this. I don't know what it is, but I love it. And of course, that was 1969, 1970. I was in high school, 14, the age of Aquarius. It was all around us. Hair was at the theaters, and so growing up in those hippie times was so valuable to people like us, I think. It was confusing and difficult, but it was also liberating. We were able to find these things. These things were being put out there slowly but surely. And so I taught myself astrology. There was nobody there to teach me. You know what I mean? I brought a book at a head shop. We didn't have New Age shops in the 70s. We had head shops, and they happened to have some tarot cards maybe and some astrology books if you were lucky. And I found one. I still have it from the time I bought it when I was 14. And I began to see things in this chart that I thought were very interesting, like this, and we're going right to the North and South Node. The karma, what is the North Node? The goal of the soul. Wow.
Yeah.
What's the South Node? The bucket of karma, And I just started to think, wow, this really explains everything. So slowly but surely, within my own time and my own place, eventually I went to school of metaphysics, and within that degree, astrology was offered. And I already knew a lot, so that cleaned me up to know the rest, if you will. That finished me off, if you will. So, because when you're self-taught, you're not always sure that things are right. You come up with your own ideas about things. That's not a bad thing, but so I never called myself an evolutionary astrologer because I did not know the term. I call myself a soul-level astrologer. So it's very interesting to hear you say that you call yourself that too, really.
Yeah.
That's just really snap, wow. So let's talk about, so now that we both know that evolutionary astrology is a soul-based astrology, let's just jump in at the deep end because we have these major eclipses and they're hitting everything going on with Pluto, Saturn, and South Node. And I really want to talk about this, because there's so many things going on in the world that apply to this right now. So we had, just for my audience who don't know, Cancer, 10 degrees Cancer, July the 2nd was the new moon eclipse. And just recently, Capricorn, 24 degrees, July 16th eclipse. So that was just, 2 days ago. Yeah. And they're hitting in various ways, shapes, and means. The Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, and the evolving South Node of the world in Capricorn. and the North Node is now in Cancer. So would you like to, I mean, I know it's a big question. Well, I'm going to ask you, and I hope you don't mind answering it. What do you think that this has to do with, I mean, I'm very interested in that lineup. How does this play out in the world? How does it play out personally?
Okay, that is a big question. I have all these charts open on my laptop. The solar eclipse in Cancer, and again within a 10-degree orbit of the North Node, and of course on the other side in Capricorn, Saturn, the South Node, and Pluto. I think with the North, with the North Node being close to this lunation, it really was saying, for collective purposes, reconnecting. I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the people's perception of the archetype of Cancer. I mean, it's water. It represents the area of life in the chart of the home and family of origin, ancestors. I mean, history, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So this is like throwing throwing that eclipse in there. It's like, what is hidden around the true nature of ourselves as human beings, our connection with the planet? And if cardinal water is what Cancer is, I tend to sometimes think the moon is not the right glyph for it. The earth itself should be the right archetypal glyph for Cancer, because it is out of the seas that life came. And so I feel that the occultation of the sun by the moon sort of is driving us to come into contact on a visceral level with what is happening with the ecology of the planet, what is happening with our bodies, and how pollution and environmental toxins are affecting how we're polluting our living space, our nest, how we are trying to detoxify as well. We're trying to, raise the vibration of our bodies, and become more aligned or in harmony with nature itself. And so it's to me, this is like planetary crisis par excellence. It's like, where in the subconscious, where in our collective memory have we left our intended path? And I think the bag. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Venus right now, I was looking at Venus because, of course, Venus rules the Earth and it rules Taurus, and you're talking about the Earth itself. Yeah. And Venus is in Cancer, so no wonder you're pulling on that energy, you see?
Yeah.
Venus right now is in Cancer, and it has been since the 4th of July.
That's the strong one. That's the very strong one there, and then the Mars transit through there as well. And then we get, so it's like, the preview of coming attractions was the total solar eclipse. The biggie was this past Monday, Tuesday with the lunar. Yeah. Even though it was a partial eclipse, it was massive, especially at the same degree or very close to the same degree of the big, Pluto-Saturn conjunction next January, and very close to the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction next December. We're talking December 2020. Right. So all of this is like the stages leading up to this nexus of 2020. Interesting stuff always happens in 20-year cycles. We had the millennium in 2000. In 1980, we had the changing of the guard from Carter to Reagan, to Reaganomics. In 1960, we had the changing of the guard from Eisenhower administration to Kennedy, the new frontier. I mean, you keep going back. 1940, the onset of World War II. So I look at these 20 years ending in 20 as being big deals, and we couldn't have any more synchronicity. We couldn't ask for any more synchronicity with the Pluto Saturn South Node conjunction next January 13th. So this is the lead up to that. That's what I'm saying, is this lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse were both lead-ins or lead-ups to what we individually and collectively are are having a choice point. I think it's a choice point. It's sort of like, well, we're letting go of the industrial age. We're going back to nature, trying to come into terms with what's happening in the natural world. That's Cancer. And Capricorn is the business world, the structures. Pluto and Capricorn, ever since 2008 and the real estate and credit crash. Pluto in Capricorn is saying, wait a minute here. Your systems are toxic. They're no longer functional. There's collapse going on in finance, economics, politics, religion, all those institutions. And so this 18 months is very critical for our direction as a species, and for individuals who have anything between the degrees of 10 and 27 degrees of Cancer or Capricorn, Libra or Aries. It's really coming home to roost in yourselves. And what stimulates people is like, what is your role? Why are you here? What are you going to bring to the table to help affect the shift? That's my feeling. That's my interpretation.
Now that you just said that, because I sent you my chart. My chart is 17 degrees Capricorn rising, and my Mars is 24 exactly in the first house.
Bingo.
Capricorn. And my Black Moon Lilith is 13 Capricorn in the 12th, and I see my role, so I've got all that going on. My daughter's graduating university very soon. Next week, I will be in Bath attending her college graduation, university graduation, we say in the UK. And, there's an ending to being sort of mommy. My daughter's grown up. This is the Cancer Capricorn axis, right?
Right.
But so that's one thing, right? And that's one thing. But the other thing is just what you said. I feel compelled. I feel like a weight on my shoulders, compelled to get more and more people to wake up, more and more people to look at the truth about what's happening in the world. And I watched something beautiful on TV yesterday. It was on the news. I never watch the news because it's just so full of rubbish. But I watched the new revolution is happening, and it's called what is it? Revolution Climate Control. Revolution. Have you seen it, Isaac?
No, I haven't seen this one.
A bunch of kids, young people, finally saying we had enough. Stop lying about climate control. I mean, the climate issues that they're not real. They are real, and the climate crisis, and what's it called? Revolution Extreme, something I can't remember now.
When you find it, please send me a link or a blurb on it.
Okay, I will, because it's absolutely amazing. There's thousands of kids, young people, I say kids because I'm 63, but young people in their teens and 20s, who are going down, walking through, Parliament, down by, down in Trafalgar Square, and protesting about being lied to about climate control and how climate change is real. We've had horrible heat here in the UK. We've had terrible floods here in the UK. The weather has been absolutely, they're screwing with the weather. Come on, we all know
it's
that.
Extraordinary. It is. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, so this is why these Cancer Capricorn eclipses with Pluto and Saturn and the South Node, which is the bucket of karma, it has to tear down this kind of regime that I'm going to get really graphic now, okay? And I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
If you've got a church full of pedo priests, there's something wrong, okay?
Yeah.
And that's Capricorn. If you've got, sex slaves in 2019, my God, what century are we in,
Yeah, or human trafficking. Yeah, exactly.
Human trafficking, exactly. Children abused constantly. They are the worst. See, Cancer, the mother, the nourishment from the mother. They are the worst ones in our society. They are totally and completely abused, and they have no rights. And, we find that in America, shame on them putting those poor immigrants in like cages, like animals. And then you find these children, and thousands of them have been sexually abused. So, I'm not shy to talk about this because it has to be talked
Bravo.
about. When is it going to change? Everything isn't love and light. I'm sorry, but it isn't. And if we don't acknowledge that these things are going on, it will never change. And this is the revolution that's happening with Capricorn Cancer. And Capricorn is, the fathers of the world. If you're a father and you have a child out there that you don't see, you don't pay for, and you don't take care of, shame on you. Shame on you. There's no reason in today's world to be an absent father unless you're a psychopath, then goodbye and good luck to you, And I mentioned this on Michael Luton's page because he was talking about it.
Oh, you know Michael. All right. Great.
Yeah, Michael's been a guest on the show a couple times. I love him. He's a good friend, I think. We never met because he lives in New York and I'm in London, but we do talk on the Facebook chat. And he's very astute. He's great. He's very astute. And he put something up about Cancer and Capricorn and all the modalities that go with it, the mummy daddy whole story. And he had on this 1950 picture. It looked like Leave It to Beaver. I know you can relate to it.
I know.
And I said to him, gee, that's really funny because what's coming up for me is that my daughter's father never was involved. Never. Didn't want to be. I gave him umpteen opportunities. Not a Christmas card, no money, not a birthday card. 19 years old, he showed up on her Instagram page. Yeah.
Whoa. And
that's when he decided that he was going to actually be a father. When he didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to pay for it anymore because the law is 19. They have to be paid for about it at 19. And this is a man who I met when I was very vulnerable, and because I had just come out of another relationship, and not to make it about me and all that, but the bottom line is this eclipse, I have to keep my mouth shut because this guy is showing up at her graduation.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Yeah, but see, this is the prime example of why we have to, the patriarch is dying. This way of treating women and children is just, it's got to go. The planet cannot survive with men abusing, neglecting, and not taking care of their children. It just cannot survive.
No,
and I think it's the same way. They abuse and they misuse and abuse and rape and pillage Earth and the animals. And so this has to change. This is, I think, what this is about. This is it. This is the final call to action.
Well, it's. I think it starts now, or has been started since 2018, and it continues. It continues deep into the next decade after Pluto moves into Aquarius, and Chiron ends up Uranus ends up in Gemini, but the Uranus and Taurus cycle goes hand in hand with all this, because Taurus rules what? Finance, real estate, food production and distribution, or lack thereof, poisoning in the environment, geological and environmental and weather change. So Uranus, comes in like a bull in a china shop every single time. So when I look at what's going on, another astrologer friend of mine described this as, the underlying energy is Mother Earth claiming her own sovereignty.
Well, Mother Earth,
That's
I think Mother Earth and Divine Feminine is a very divine, the archetype of Divine Feminine, if you will, is very, very wise. And this has been the thing that's been pushed down and treated, again, chauvinism, whatever, the patriarchy, that women are stupid. So, of course, Mother Earth is stupid. Gaia is stupid. And she can be taken advantage of and made to, her wonderful oceans and her beautiful mountains are just raped and pillaged all the time. And this does not serve anyone. It only serves those who make money and profit from it. And so this has to change. We have to go back to a way where we are honoring the very earth we live on. We are honoring the system instead of, and I know you understand this.
Yeah, the Native American perspective on this is well known, and how we don't really or cannot really claim ownership of the earth. We are her children, as they are want to see it. That's their perspective. But you mentioned the earth being wise, and this triggers me to mention to you and to your audience that one of my deepest parts of my path all my life has been being, relating to nature and to the human body is not the enemy of spirituality, but, the expression of it in a material form. And the other part, celebrating that and celebrating who we are as a living species, as an imagination originally in divine mind, and it has been my study of the Gnostic mythos of the last 10 or 11 years that has helped me understand my experience I had in that meadow when I was 7 years old. I wasn't talking to an archangel. I wasn't talking to an ascended master. I was having a conversation with the planet. This is the way the Gaia Sophia appeared to initiates in the mystery schools 1,000 years ago across the Middle East. This is where they would train for 21 years to enter into the presence of Sophia, the wisdom goddess, who is partially manifest as the body that we know as this planet, and have this dual conversation, this two-way communion, and come to understand where their place was in the cosmology of the earth and the cosmology of the universe. And it was pre-Roman, and it continued for a very short period of time after Christianity, because the early Christian church hunted down the Gnostics and almost destroyed every legacy and piece of information that they had developed over 1,000 years, which was called the Hellenistic period. So,
okay, Isaac.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Pause.
Leave it there.
We've got so much. I have to do one more little, just a 2-minute little spot here, and then we're going to come back. And I want to talk about the dolphins, but I know we're going to run out of time. I can see it.
I can feel it. And we have people still hanging on the line.
Still hanging on. One just hung up, sadly, and I would have got to her, so it's a shame for him. But if you're there, area code 650. When we come back, we're going to take your call. Okay, we'll be right back with Isaac George, and this is Father and Son doing that Capricorn theme. Here we go by Cat Stevens. Now known as, oh my God, hold on, something happened to my studio. Hold on, man, God, something happened there. Okay, Father and Son, here we go by Cat Stevens.
It's not time to make a change. Just relax, take it easy. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. But take your time, think a lot. Why, think of everything you've got, for you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. How can I try to explain? When I do, he turns away again. It's always been the same old story. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. change. Just sit down, take it slowly. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to go through. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old.
Oh my God, what's happening? Can you hear me? Oh, Isaac,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yep.
It just stopped playing, guys. I don't know. I'm having some crazy
Mercury
glitches.
retrograde.
I know, drive you nuts. Okay, listen, we don't have much time, and I must go to this caller. Area code 650. You have one quick question and time to ask Isaac. So I'm bringing your mic up. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
I can. Thank you, Shawn, and thank you, Isaac. Yes, I've been waiting the whole entire show.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Began.
So go to
get a
work
medal.
quickly because you don't have much time. Ask
Yeah,
Isaac.
I've enjoyed this show. So, Isaac, I'm wondering if you could quickly look at my chart. I was born December 2nd, 1990.
Hang on. What was your first name again?
Oh, my name is Patty.
Patty.
Yeah.
December what?
2nd, 1990.
December.
And I have two.
And the
December
time?
2nd, 19. Yes, 12:41 p.m. in
And
New
where?
Jersey in Princeton.
Been there.
Yeah, nice place.
And okay. All right. And you want to see this as relating to today's transits or the eclipse?
Oh, well, no, actually, just wondering if you can help me figure out when I might possibly meet a life partner. Any details around that? Yeah.
Oh, when you might need one. Well, I mean, everybody likes to have one.
Meet one. Meet.
Oh, meet one. Excuse me. That's a timing issue. First and foremost.
Any transits?
That's what I'm looking. I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Your seventh house has two asteroids in it, and a point called the vertex, which is really cool because the vertex is the most unconscious point in any person's chart. It is the soul's ulterior plan or underlying plan of when you meet significant people in your life that will change the course or direction of your life. So having the vertex there is significant. Is there anything aspecting it right now? The sun. You have an aspect of Chiron at 26 Cancer natally, so that's an aspect to this vertex in Virgo. I think the strongest thing, it can vary. Pluto is going to get up to 24 degrees of Capricorn next year. I'd say from probably March onward, and that is going to be in a trine, an easy flow to your seventh house, to the vertex. And usually significant outer planet transits will be the significant trigger for someone coming into your life who might be a Cancer, who might be a Capricorn, an Aries, or a Libra. Or because the vertex in Virgo, it could be Pisces or Gemini or Sag. So you got 8 chances here of different possibilities.
Oh my God!
But basically, people think, well, Venus and Mars will regulate or control the meeting of somebody. It's usually Uranus, Pluto, Jupiter. Those kind of transits to any natal point in the chart, or the angles, the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, or IC, will usually signify a meaningful or profound connection with somebody that comes into your life. Sometimes those connections can last a few weeks, and sometimes they'll last an entire lifetime or 20 years. That is completely determined by the two souls. So I look at this right now and say, not at the moment, but the potential is certainly stronger as Pluto gets up into the 24, 25, 26 degree range of Capricorn, aspecting not just your vertex, but opposing your natal Chiron. So that to me says, all right, whatever relationship that comes in is also going to be a healing relationship of some type around your internal perceptions of partnering, marriage, that kind of thing. So timing is everything. And if there's anything in a person's chart that has a say about timing, I would say having a vertex in the 7th house of marriage and primary partnership is pretty dang significant.
And that's when exactly did you say?
That'd be starting, I would say, any time from now until next December 2020. From now to December 2020. But Pluto is in retrograde motion right now. So it goes back a few degrees.
Too. Yeah.
And Jupiter. And you've got Pluto natally on your natal Saturn around this time. So in the 11th house. So maybe there's been some changes in your friendships. Maybe there's been changes in income level. Maybe there's changes in personal habits. But basically, Pluto over the Saturn isn't as felt as strongly as it will be with Pluto opposing that Chiron in the opposite house in the 5th house. That'll be a lot stronger, and making that easy flowing trine to the vertex in the 7th house of marriage and partnership. So there are no other planets coming up over the next 15 months that are going to be as close to being a trigger as Pluto. Except Saturn. Saturn will go over the 24 degree mark of Capricorn 2 from January to May next year. Jupiter will come along and join Pluto in December of 2020, very close to, again, being a trine to that vertex. So there might be somebody you meet when that gets close to being exact Pluto to vertex, and then shortly after that there might be a separation, there might be a cooling off period. But when that Jupiter-Pluto thing happens at the end of 2020, it's either, okay, with Capricorn involved, okay, are we committing to something or what? That would be a potential. I can't predict. Astrology is not an exact science in terms of predicting anything, but it will show trends and possibilities and potential opportunities much stronger in that category than being a hard prediction of an exact date.
I understand. Yeah, a couple of psychics actually said it's probably somebody I already know. So that was with Pluto involved and in an Earth sign like Capricorn, probably. At least from my perspective at this point. Now, if I'm looking at anything else, the surprise wild card things here would be some fast-moving transit like Venus in Cancer right now, going over Chiron in the 5th house in the next few weeks, and then going over your South Node and opposing the North Node. Venus in Leo could be some kind of fun thing. I don't know. It's like those little interplanet transits over a nodal axis can sometimes surprise everybody, including you. Right.
Yeah, so keep your eyes open.
Just have to keep my eyes open.
And keep intending what it is you want to have to be for your highest and best good, and let's see what happens.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Shawn, and thank you, Isaac.
You're very
Patty.
welcome. All the best.
Welcome, Patty.
Keep listening. We're not done yet. Keep listening.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
That was out. You're very welcome. I'm just, again, I got to call a time, so we only have we have about 5 minutes or less.
Oh, gosh, okay.
I know, it goes really quick because I have to finish the show with a couple things. So let me just ask you, you want to talk about the dolphins, or you want to talk about Tantra, or what do you want to talk about right now? I'm going to give you the ball in your court.
I can wrap both of those up neat and tidy together.
You got 4 minutes. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Basically, my experience with the dolphins was direct. I've swum with them. I've co-facilitated dolphin swims in the Big Island, Hawaii. They are like interdimensional portals unto themselves, and I highly recommend the experience if you can do it. And we definitely plan on hosting another one sometime, hopefully in 2020 or 2021, over on the Big Island. And that was serendipitous how I fell into that one too. That was totally engineered by spirit. The Tantra thing, however, was very interesting. That was because of an astrologer in 1995, a woman astrologer who gave me a reading, read my chart, and went, "You need to study Tantra and sacred sexuality. You've got all these aspects in your chart that shows that you had some kind of experience with this in other lifetimes." And I went, "Oh, really?" And then I came to understand that in a way, Tantra relates to the dolphins in the way that they unashamedly and joyfully connect with each other in the sexual way, in sexual love. So Tantra for me has been a study for the last 23 years as well, and also a practice that I investigated and explored, and not just Tantra from India or Tibet. It's, Taoist practices from China and other cultures over time. So it's an amazing study. It's an amazing thing.
It's so fascinating and wonderful to have you on our show today, Isaac George. You've been a delight. You've answered a lot of questions, and you've also shared your wise and wonderful wisdom, and I'm very, very happy to have you on. Come back anytime. We're out of time now. I've got to wrap the show up.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Shawn. And anybody wants to get a hold of me, www.isaacgeorge.com, and I am grateful to you, Shawn, for inviting me to be on the show, and I look forward to a redo.
Anytime. We will have you back for sure. There was much more we could talk about, but, sadly, it's just 90 minutes and in between other things. Okay, So that's our guest, Isaac George. Thank you. And next week, we're going to have Dr. Maria Cronin, the naturopathic physician. It just leaves me now to end the show, as I always do, within this metaphysical moment, and here we go. And my theme is based on the Cancer Capricorn eclipse, which is called Unconditional Love. What is unconditional love? People speak of it as an ideal, but what is it exactly? Is it about allowing all to do whatever they want or feel inclined to do, and whether right or wrong, whether good or bad, whether it hurts others or not, and then never hold a grudge, a downward glance, tisk of judgmental assessments? I don't think so. I think it is more like seeing it through the eyes of a loving mother. She sees her child in his or her innocence with all the foibles clearly visible, but with the hopes and wishes and sheer heartfelt determination that that child will succeed in all ways fully. In this metaphysical moment, I am but a dot on the landscape of earth, yet my soul is timeless, endless, and eternal. So my choices in life matter, and they create ultimately who I am. My wisdom carries with me from heaven to earth and from lifetime to lifetime, acquiring new experiences of both light and dark. I give myself this journey with unconditional love, knowing it is okay, no matter what it looks like to others, to be me. In my higher mind, I am aware of all my reasons and ideas behind who and what I am and my choices in life, and I am safe in the knowledge that we are all here to learn and share these experiences together, evolving through time to become the best we all can be, loved unconditionally from within and heaven above. And on that note, I'm going to play us out with a beautiful song. This is dedicated to my daughter, Autumn, who's graduating from Basketball University next week. And thank you, my darling, with an English degree, English lit and film, rather, sorry. And you did well, baby girl. I'm very proud of you. So here we go, Miracle by Celine Dion. Thank you, and see you all next week.
You're my life's one miracle.
you're the reason I was born. Now I finally know for sure, and I'm overwhelmed with happiness, so blessed to hold you close, the one that I love most. Though the future has so much for you in store, who could ever love you more? The nearest thing to heaven, you're my angel from above. Only God creates such perfect love. When you smile at me, I cry. And to save your life, I die with a romance that is pure heart. You are my dearest part. Whatever it requires, I live for your desires. Forget my own, your needs will come before. Who could ever love you more? Oh, there is nothing you could ever do to make me stop loving you. And every breath I take is always for your sake. You sleep inside my dreams and know for sure, who could ever love you more?
Just a beautiful song, and which reflects a mother's love, really. And I think, Cancer, Capricorn, we have to be good parents. It's so essential to human life to have good parents. Without good parents, children grow up broken, and they grow up hard, and they grow up to create terrible crimes in the world. They're really all just broken children inside. So let's be good parents to ourselves, to each other, to the earth, and especially to our own children. And on that note, I will love you and leave you. The synchronicity of life is my daughter sent me a little Facebook message while that song came on. She didn't even know that she wasn't listening to the show. So that's how tuned in children are to their parents. I will say goodnight and thank you very much to Isaac George, wonderful guest of the show tonight. And isaacgeorge.com, you can find him. And, check in with him, okay? We're going out live on Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye, good night, and see you next week. And this is